I only have one message to give you. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care what you call me. I do care what you do with this information because it is important to our survival as a species.
So the ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one-world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one-world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is giving me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip.
Well, good morning. This is a day I've been looking forward to for a long time. A lot of us here have been talking over the months ahead, trying to make sure that we get everyone to show up and do absolutely the best they can for vaccination. I was a little worried when we were driving in this morning to see a lot of protesters out there on the street. And I thought, geez, what could they say about vaccines? Well, in fact, what they were saying is they love vaccines. They were encouraging us all here to make this support. And so organizations that have gathered that positive energy and support for this, like One and Save the Children, it's fantastic to see. We've heard from some great speakers this morning, people who are leading the way. The UK in terms of making increases. Norway is the most generous donor. And you'll hear from others later who are really pushing hard to come up with the resources to save these children. These are tough budget times, and so I know it takes a lot, but we're going to see the value of that in terms of what Gavi's able to achieve.
Hey guys, how you doing? I hope you liked the little video I put together. I do have some editing skills, but what you're going to notice right away is you might notice the background. I had to do a clean install on my computer. It crashed the other day, so I went with Ubuntu. Been wanting to do it for a while anyway. You'll notice Bill Cooper right here, American hero. Good little picture I found of him. So I want to talk today about COVID and this pandemic. It's everything but a pandemic, but I'll show you why. I was able to streamline my computer, so hopefully you shouldn't notice any lagging. So, let's get into it. This video will be for people who are on the fence, maybe who still think this is real, who still think this is about a virus, and, don't think this is about control. So let me just give you some information. This is what you got up here. This is a thing called Event 201, and this is the actual website. A global pandemic exercise. Now what this was it was a 3.5-hour tabletop exercise. It was hosted by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Johns Hopkins University of Medicine, and the World Economic Forum. They simulated an outbreak of coronavirus that started off in bats, went to pigs, and then humans. They even made these pre-recorded news broadcasts, which you can see right here. You can find them on YouTube, little mock news briefings that look exactly like what we're seeing right now, because it is the same thing. They're doing the same script. It's just all acting. Everyone you see on the media, all these news anchors, they're not really, giving you news. They're just acting. So what you got right here, this happened actually October 19th or October 18th of last year. I believe October 18th. And it predicted an outbreak of coronavirus 6 weeks before the first reported case in Wuhan. In the scenario, they actually had the outbreak start in Wuhan. So go figure. Let me see if I can actually pull that up. Aha. And this is on their real website. This was made before the outbreak, keep in mind. Event 201 simulates an outbreak of a novel zoonotic coronavirus transmitted from bats to pigs to people that eventually becomes efficiently transmissible from person to person, leading to a severe pandemic. The pathogen and the disease it causes are modeled largely on SARS, but it is more transmissible in the community setting by people with mild symptoms. So it says, the disease starts in pig farms in Brazil quietly and slowly at first, and then it starts to spread more rapidly in healthcare settings, when it starts to spread efficiently from person to person in the low-income, densely packed neighborhoods of some of the megacities in South America. The epidemic explodes. It is first exported to air travel by air travel to Portugal, the United States, and China, and then to many other countries. Although at first some countries are able to control it, it continues to spread and be reintroduced, and eventually no country can maintain control. There is no possibility of a vaccine being available in the first year. There is a fictional antiviral drug that can help the sick but not significantly limit spread of the disease. Yep, there you go. That's the actual website. I'm surprised they still have it up. I'm not going to click the videos because it probably won't load, but you can view them yourself if you want. So who we have involved right now is Bill Gates. So his foundation was brought up in this. Why is that important? Because look at this right here. Just read this the other day. Bill Gates funded digital identity based on your vaccination history. So check this out. It's a thing called Trust Stamp, and it's going through MasterCard and Gavi. Bill Gates funds Gavi. So it's a vaccination-based digital identity program and implemented by MasterCard and Gavi that will soon link your biometric digital identity to your vaccination records. So this right here is a little, basically it's like, for lack of better words, a trust certificate. You're not going to be able to go anywhere, you're not going to be able to do anything unless you can prove that you've gotten the vaccine. And this is actually being trialed in West Africa right now. A new biometric identity platform partnered with the Gates-funded Gavi Vaccine Alliance and MasterCard will launch in West Africa and combine COVID-19 vaccinations, cashless payments, and potential law enforcement applications. That sounds ominous, huh? But you also have to think, too, you're hearing things about a coin shortage right now. Oh, due to the COVID, pandemic, there's a shortage in coins, and, places aren't going to start accepting cash. They say, oh, cash spreads the disease. It's all incremental steps towards having it be a digital currency, which is going to be on a chip, which is going to be in you, which is going to be in the vaccine that they want to give you. So if you don't, go along with the plan, or you say something they don't like, boom, turn your chip right off. Let's see. The program was first launched in late 2018. That's curious. A year before it even happened. We'll see Trust Stamp's digital identity platform integrated into the Gavi MasterCard Wellness Pass, a digital vaccination record and identity system that is also linked to MasterCard's quick-to-play system that powered by its AI and machine learning technology called NuData. MasterCard, in addition to professing its commitment to promoting centralized record-keeping of childhood immunization, also describes itself as a leader towards a world beyond cash. So like I said, they want to move past using physical currency because they can't track everything you do when you pay with cash. They can track everything you do when it's digital, especially if it's a chip in your body that you have no control over. and its partnership with Gavi marks a novel approach toward linking a biometric digital identity system, vaccination records, and a payment system into a single cohesive platform. The effort, since its launch nearly 2 years ago, has been funded via $3.8 million in Gavi donor funds in addition to a matched donation of the same amount by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So, okay, we've got Bill Gates behind all this shit so far. Now look at this. Gates is funding 7 factories for his mandatory vaccine. And this is Tony Blair, former Prime Minister, saying people will need a digital ID to prove disease status in the future. Bill Gates says his foundation is funding the construction of factories for 7 coronavirus vaccine candidates. Europe is embracing his agenda where people will not be able to even leave their house without a digital certificate from Gates to prove they were vaccinated. Former Prime Minister Tony Blair is on board with the Gates agenda. Europe is isolating itself from the world, for if their own citizens will be restricted in the movement, what hope will there be for a tourist? In Britain, you can leave your house and take a drive, but you must return and are prohibited from staying anywhere else. All of this for a virus they make out to be the Black Death when the death rate is, not even, it's negligible of the population. This is all about, redesigning the world economy by deliberately crashing it and destroying all businesses, And it's true. Let's check this out real quick. If I can find it. Here we go. All right, so we have a who's who in this photograph right here. We got Ted Turner. We got Anthony Fauci. Look at this little guy. Hey, buddy, how you doing? We got him standing next to, who is this? This is Bill Gates' father. And who is this? George Soros. And who is this? David Rockefeller. You're going to see that name a lot, Rockefeller. Rockefeller, Rothschild, it's pretty much synonymous with all this shit. George Soros, he's pretty much attached to all this either. I mean, you look at him and you see all the things he funds, like Black Lives Matter, all these NGOs, the Open Society Foundation, basically things that go into countries and disrupt them through subversive acts and means in order to, conquer societies, really. But you have a who's who right here, and this was taken, 2001 at the Carnegie Medal of Philanthropy. Like I said, whenever you hear that word philanthropist, just assume that the person's probably a shitty person. But yep, Tom Brokaw, Ted Turner, you got these people from the media, banking, These people, they pretend to be against each other, in the public, but in reality, Barbara Walters, another one, these people are all buddies, They laugh at us for not seeing it, and that's the sad part. So, let's see. All right, so we've established that Bill Gates is behind all this, and we got Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci is on the coronavirus task force for the White House. So look at this. We have the outbreak supposedly popping up in Wuhan. Dr. Fauci backed funding for controversial Wuhan lab studying origin of coronavirus. That's curious, huh? Dr. Fauci, a member of the coronavirus task force, had previously backed funding for a controversial lab in Wuhan, China that has been studying the coronavirus in bats, reports said. Supposedly it started in a bat, right? And it started in Wuhan. What is the same guy who's on the task force for the White House doing funding a lab in Wuhan studying coronaviruses in bats? And I believe this goes back to 2015 and 16, where he did 2 separate payments, but totaling $7.5 million. So this guy, he's going to get up on stage and tell us we need to wear masks and tell us we need to stand 6 feet apart and we need to stay in our house and, all these drastic alterations we need to make to our everyday lives. For what? For a disease that, they did a simulation, for 6 weeks before it happened, and the simulation was identical to how it happened, and the people who funded the simulation are the same people who were funding the vaccine for the disease. It's insane. It's just crazy how people don't see this. Here's another thing. It's Operation Warp Speed. This is actually off hhs.gov. This is their official site. Check this out. If you don't know what Operation Warp Speed is, I'm going to tell you. Operation Warp Speed aims to deliver 300 million doses of a safe, effective vaccine for COVID-19 by January 2021 as part of a broader strategy to accelerate the development, manufacturing, and distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics, collectively known as countermeasures. So Operation Warp Speed wants to put a needle in your arm by next year, first of next year, 5 months from now. And Trump said that he wants to use the military to do it. So he's on video saying that if you want to look it up. But he wants to use the military and he wants to put a needle in your arm. There's 350 million people in the United States. So they want to have a dose for every single person. How are they going to have that ready by then? Because they already had it ready. They're just telling you, oh, we have to work on it. Bullshit, they've had this for years. I told you with the Rockefeller lockstep plan in my last video, they've been planning this for at least 10 years. That's what you can prove. But it's been longer than that, which you can even go further back, to the beginning of the modern medicine system, like I said, when the Rockefellers formed our allopathic medicine system. So you can read this if you want. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, here's another one. Another mainstream news source. Coronavirus antibody tests could be wrong up to half the time, says the CDC. That's curious. Antibody tests for COVID-19 used to determine if people have been infected in the past with a deadly illness might be wrong up to half the time, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention announced. So, flip a coin, you got it. Flip a coin, you don't have it. I mean, how are we going to determine if someone actually has it? If the test isn't right half the time, that's literally just, throwing a dart at a board and just picking a random thing. This person has it, this person doesn't, this person does, this person too. There's no science behind it. So they admit that it's not right half the time. Also, you have Dr. Birx. She's also part of the coronavirus task force with Dr. Fauci, saying that people who die with coronavirus are counted as dying from coronavirus, regardless of the cause. So if you get into a car accident going 90 miles an hour and get decapitated, and they test the stump, then if you have coronavirus, you died from coronavirus, not from having your head ripped off. So, openly admitting that they're falsifying data, basically. So they inflate the numbers go up and up and up, then they can justify enacting all these laws that they've had laying dormant for years, for pandemics and epidemics. States can suddenly start giving, themselves more power. Governors can start unilaterally making decisions and basically passing legislations with mandates and, executive orders, when if they didn't have the death numbers to qualify as a pandemic, they wouldn't have that power. So what do they have to do? They have to fake the numbers, which they openly admit they're doing right here. Check this out. Here's the Illinois governor explaining what qualifies as a COVID death. Let's see. Here's the Illinois Public Health Director, Dr. Nosy Ezek, whatever the fuck that name is, saying people are listed as a coronavirus death even if they died of alternate causes. Even if you died of a clear alternate cause, but you had COVID at the time, it's still listed as a COVID death. So they admit that the test is wrong half the time, which that number in and of itself, they're just throwing that out there. That could be totally fucking bullshit. And then they say, oh, well, if you have it and you get your head ripped off, well, you died from the disease, clearly. So, like I said, you inflate the numbers and falsify the data, which they literally admit they're doing. They don't even think you're intelligent enough to pick that up, really. Seriously, they think you're that stupid that they literally tell you, yeah, we're inflating the numbers. And then you go, well, why? And they just don't give you a valid explanation, And it's just ridiculous. It's insane. And here's Dr. Fauci. He did a 60 Minutes interview. Let's see. I can't remember when this was. I guess a March 8th interview. He says, there's no reason to be walking around with a mask. And I remember this specific story blew up because Joe Rogan, even right here, posted it. But he says, right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks. The reporter, you're sure? Because people are listening really closely to this. No, there's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think it is, and often there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the masks and they're touching their face. He went on to say masks should be reserved for medical professionals and infected individuals. So here's a guy telling you don't need a mask, it's not going to do anything, and it should only be used for sick people and people treating sick people. You know, like they have been throughout all of history until recently when diseases and virology and everything just decided to change for no reason. So, all the rules just don't apply anymore, and now it's all new rules, for just some reason, apparently. And here's Dr. Fauci again. This is the Gateway Pundit, saying in the New England Journal of Medicine that coronavirus mortality rate may be much closer to a very bad flu. Of course, because they openly admit they're inflating the numbers because they don't have enough to consider it a pandemic and then issue themselves all those powers. Last week morning, Governor, that's just the way they phrase the sentence. Gavin Newsom from California and Andrew Cuomo from New York announced complete lockdown on state residents due to the coronavirus pandemic. Okay, so you have these two douchebag faggot governors from the two biggest fucking flyover states you could imagine besides Florida saying they're announcing a complete lockdown. On whose authority? On whose authority? It's not a pandemic. You admit you're inflating the numbers. So where do you get the power to announce a lockdown? Where do you get off telling people they need to wear a mask and they need to stay inside? You don't. You don't legally have the basis to do it, and it's completely illegitimate. Let's see what we can do. Here he is saying it in the New England Journal of Medicine. When he says it's similar to those in 1957 and 1968 where it has a 0.1 case fatality. So they even admit, not even as bad as the flu. You don't have to wear a mask, they're ineffective. The mask might not even do anything at all, Even if you do wear it as a professional, and even if it's not a loop mask, it's like a N95 mask, it still might not even be effective. And it might not give you total protection. Now here's a Time magazine, another mainstream news source, unpacking the new WHO controversy over asymptomatic COVID transmission. I'm just going to say WHO, but I mean World Health Organization. You can see it right there. Okay. For months, researchers have warned that people without, listen to their words, without any COVID symptoms could still be silent carriers. Could still be. Making it that much harder to get the pandemic under control. Yeah, that's what they're getting under control is a pandemic, right? It's not us. It's not forcing us to be slaves, to stay 6 feet apart, to wear masks, to stand on dotted lines, to stand and wait to be spoken to and served, to not demand anything, to not shake people's hands. Yeah, you're right. It's about a pandemic, So it came as a surprise when Maria Van Kerkhove, the World Health Organization's technical lead for COVID-19, said at a press briefing on June 8th that asymptomatic transmission appears to be very rare. Her statement came just days after the organization directed healthy people living in areas with widespread community transmission to wear fabric face masks in public to help contain the advance of the disease. In an interview with Time following the press briefing, she said she didn't mean to suggest that asymptomatic people can't carry it. I did not say that asymptomatic cases cannot transmit. They can, she says. The question is, do they? She just said they can, and then immediately follows it up with, do they? Which is it, you stupid bitch? Is it they can or do they? Because you're directly contradicting yourself. Always use their own words against them, because these people are not smart. They might seem smart, but they aren't. They just think you're stupid. They can. Can they? And if they do, how often is it happening? So they say it can, then they say, well, can it? And if it does, well, how often? And then she says there's not a clear answer. So they're telling me if I have no symptoms and I'm not sick, nothing about me gives off the vibe I have this disease, allegedly, and I go out. They're saying that I can transmit it, but then they're also saying I can't, and they don't know if I can, and if I can, how often am I? You know, these people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They really think you're that stupid. I mean, I don't know what to really show you. Let's see. What else can I find? I think that's pretty much all I wanted to go over. But like I said, these people, Fauci, Birx, Gates, all these people in the background telling you what you should do with your life, these people are not elected officials. These people do not serve the public. These people serve their own interests. These people want to put foreign chemicals, foreign devices, whatever, in your body, your children's body. You know, these people don't care. They don't care if you die. They don't care if your kids die. It's about control, lowering the population, getting what's left of the population under control and into big mega cities, make it easier to manage them, have everything under constant surveillance, everything you do monitored. You will not be allowed to dissent. There will be absolutely no tolerance for anyone going against the grain or anyone thinking freely. There will be no private ownership. You will be allotted what they think you need, and that's it. You are a pawn. You are part of a greater collective. You are not an individual. You do not matter. It's scary, and it should scare the shit out of anybody. So if you're still on the fence after all this, I don't know what to tell you. You're probably never going to wake up. But if you found the information that I presented useful, like I said, research it yourself. Don't believe me. Just research it. I've given you the tools. I've shown you, hey, you can go here, you can go there. The information's all over the place. These people admit it in the public, on camera, in news interviews, all the time. They're not smart. They're not great at hiding things. Use their own words against them and think for yourself and do your own research. I'm not going to keep this video going on any longer, but you guys need to make a decision soon. What are you going to do? Are you going to go along with it, or are you going to fight back? Because we don't have a lot of time. You got maybe 5 months. So start thinking. God bless. Take care.